Yes, ma'am. You can see it.
Okay. In our previous class, we stopped at classful addressing, right? We've completed classful addressing. That is class A, class B, class C, class D and E. Also, in that we've seen how to deduce the address for each class. What would be the prefix length, what would be the suffix length, etc. Today we will look at what is classless addressing and why it came up. Classful addressing, many addresses were going waste, and there was also a depletion of IP addresses due to that, and that is why classless addressing came up. Here there is nothing about different classes or anything. All we take the IP address as is. It is as one address of 32 bits length. What you should understand here is, this is again similar to what we've done regarding addresses in our previous example. We've done how to find out the first address, last address, and what is the total number of addresses, right? So what will be the first when you're given a block of addresses as say x dot y dot z dot t slash n. This would be one of the addresses within that particular block, and slash n will define the mask. So how do you find out the first address from this? The first address in the block can be found by setting the rightmost 32 minus n bits to 0. Okay, so and that is starting from the rightmost bits, 32 minus n bits, you will make it as 0, and the last address can be found by making those 32 minus n bits as ones. Logically enough, right? Then how do you find the total number of addresses in the block? It would be 2 to the power 32 minus n. Okay. Now just look at this example. A block of addresses is granted to MIT, and we know that one of the addresses 205.16.39.7.39/28. What is the first and last address in the block? So how do you find it out? This is one way, that is you write the binary representation of each byte. So 205 will be as given here. Then this would be 6. This is 16. This is 37, and this is 39. Right now, you look at what is the slash n value. N is 28. So how do you find the first address? You set 32 minus the first 32 minus n bits from the right side, right? So you 32 minus n, that is 32 minus 28, right? That is 4 bits, isn't it? So you make the last 4 bits, that is from the right hand side, you make the last 4 bits equal to 0, right? Now what do you get? You get 205.16.37.32. All right, and how do you find the last address? You have to set the last, that is 32 minus 28, which is 4. So set the rightmost 4 bits to all to ones. Then what do you get? You will get 205.16.37.47. This is what you get. Okay, now how do you find the number of addresses in this block? Total number of addresses would be 2 to the power 32 minus n. So that is 2 to the power 32 minus 28, which is 2 to the power 4. That will be equal to 16. Okay, so the first address will be 205.16.37.32. Next address will be 205.16.37.33, 34, 35, 36, 37, etc. up to 47. This is how you get the total number of blocks. Understood? Sorry, total number of addresses in a block. Now let's look at some more examples. This is another method where you are masking. Okay. This is now what you have is /28, isn't it? /28, the mask will also be given as all ones, and only the last 4 bits will be taken as 0, isn't it? Remember, it is 255.255.255 dot something. So this entire, the address that you are actually given in binary, you AND every bit with the corresponding bit of the mask. You AND every bit with the corresponding bit of the mask. With that, you will get the first address. Or if you have to find the last address, what would you do? The last address, you have to consider the complement of the mask, which will be all zeros, but for the last 4 bits, which will be ones. So you bit by bit, you AND each bit with the bit of the mask, then you will get the last address. This is another method. Okay, it's of course, I think you would agree with me if I said it is easier to use this particular method, but if you want to use this also, you're welcome, no problem. Okay, and how do you find out the total number of addresses? It would be, it can be found by complementing the mask and interpreting it as a decimal value. So what is the complement of this? It would be a 1 followed by 4 zeros, which will be 16. Okay. Now this is again classless addressing. This is configuration and addresses in a subnetted net in a subnet. So if you recall what we had done earlier, we have already seen something like a subnet. Now in this subnet one that is colored in yellow, you see the first address is 17.12.14.31/27, and then sorry, it actually starts from the bottom. So it is 17.12.14.1/27, and it goes up to 14.31/27. So if you are given /27, what would be the total number of addresses, and what will be the first address and the last address? That you should be able to identify. Now, if you look at the entire network, you see over here the network address or the IP address of the entire network is 17.12.14.0/26. Okay. Now, depending on how many users are or how many clients we have per subnet, the /n value will be determined. Okay. Okay. So this is the first subnet. What is it? The 26 bits is the network prefix. Then there is 1 bit for subnet prefix and 5 bits for host address. Similarly, the subnets 2 and 3. Now, this is one of the very important problems that you can expect at any point in time in your exams also, test and exams. This is a very important topic, so please pay attention. Now look at this. MIT is allocated with block 130.34.12.64./26. Now MIT requires 4 subnets, each with an equal number of hosts. Okay, so MIT has been allocated with this particular block, and now MIT is supposed to have 4 subnets. So let us say we've got 4 departments, and each department has got equal number of users or equal number of hosts. So you need to design the subnets with the first and last addresses in each subnet. So how do you do it? Now the number of addresses, first thing is you should find out the total number of addresses that are given. Okay, then how do you find that? You find out, look at what is the /n value. Total number of addresses will be 2 power 32 minus /n, that is 26. 32 minus 26 is 6, right? So 2 power 6 is 64. The total number of addresses in this block is 64. Now, what is the first and the last address of the block, the entire block? What is the first and the last address of the entire block? What would it be? It would be this. Now, how do you find out the first and the last address? I hope you're already you have understood that, right? You have to take 32 minus 26, which is 6. So from the right hand side, you make the last 6 bits as 0, keeping the other bits as it is, and find out what is the decimal equivalent of it. And to find out the last address, you make the last 6 bits equal to 0, keeping the rest of the bits as it is. So that gives you the last address, right? So now you know what is the first address of the block and what is the last address of the block. This you have to divide among 4 subnets. Now how do you do that? Out of 64, you have to give it to 4 subnets and all of them are equal. So obviously we know that it would be 64 by 4. isn't it? Which would be 16. So we grant 16 addresses for each subnet to meet the first requirement, which is 16 by 16. Always remember one more thing over here. When you are subnetting, the number of addresses you provide to each subnet, the number of addresses you provide to each subnet should always be a power of 2 value. Please bear this in mind. The number of addresses you allocate to a subnet should always be a power of 2 value. Okay. Now anyway here 16 is a power of 2, so nothing to worry. And then what would be the subnet mask? That is, what would be the /n value for each of these? How do you find that out? It is here. It will be n plus log of capital N by small n suffix I to base 2. This part. What does it give you? This lowercase n is nothing but the value /n that is given in the block, which is 26, plus log 4 to base 2. 4, why 4? That is nothing but number of subnets you require. Okay, so it is log 4 to base 2, which will be equal to 28. So that means for each of the subnet, the /n value is going to be 28. So you get /28. Okay, so how would you allocate now? Look at this. This is the first address in the block when you're considering the entire block of 64 addresses. This is the first address and this is the last address. Now this has to be divided into 4 blocks, each with 16 addresses. Okay, so you have found out what would be the /n value. So for each block, you should know how to write the first address and the last address. Okay, so the first block, it is /28. So what will be the first address of this block or of this sub block? It will be 2 to the power 32 minus 28, which is 4, isn't it? So you make the last 4 bits as 0, which gives you the first address, and you make the last 4 bits as 1s, which will give you the last address of this particular block. The next, you start with the next address, and that's how it goes on. This is how you design the subblocks. Okay. Now, you just look at this example. MU is granted a block of addresses with the beginning address as 14.24.74.0/24. Now, it needs to have 3 subblocks of addresses to use in its 3 institutes, that is MIT, KMC, and SYS, let us say. And each sub-block requires 120 addresses, one sub-block requires 60 addresses, and another sub-block requires 10 addresses. Now, how many addresses are you going to allocate? Look at the question. The first sub-block requires 120 addresses. Can we allocate 120 addresses? We cannot do it because the rule says that you can allocate the number of addresses that you can allocate should always be a power of 2 value. Is 120 a power of 2? No, isn't it? But then how many do you allocate? You should never allocate lesser number of addresses. You should always allocate the nearest value that would be a power of 2. Now, if it is 120, how many addresses will you allocate? You can take 128, isn't it? 128 is a power of 2, right? Similarly, look at the next one. It says one block of 60 addresses. Again, 60 is not a power of 2. So how many would we allocate? You have to allocate 64 addresses. And the third one block of 10 addresses. 10 again is not a power of 2. 8, however, is a power of 2, but you cannot allocate 8. Why? Because it needs a minimum of 10 addresses, right? So you can allocate 16 addresses instead. Did you understand this? So now you design the first subblock. First thing that you do is you find out what is the first and the last address of the entire block that is given, the block of addresses that are given. What is it? It is, what is the /n value? It is /24, right? So there are 2 power 32 minus 24. That is 32 minus 24. That is 8, right? So 2 power 8 gives me 256. There are 256 addresses in this block. Now out of this 256 addresses, you need to allocate 128 plus 64 plus 16 addresses. Got it? Now, what is the first address of this block out of this 256? How do you do? You have to make the last 8 bits as zeros, right? So you get 14.24.74.0/24. And what is the last address? It will be 14.24.74.255/24. Now, what do you allocate to the first subblock? You cannot allocate 120. Instead, you are going to allocate 128. Now, in order to allocate 128, addresses, what will be the subnet mask? It's going to be 25, isn't it? So that means then what will be the first address? It will be 2 to the power 32 minus 25, isn't it? 2 to the power 32 minus 25. So that means the last what is it? 7. Okay, so the last 7 bits you are going to make them as 0, and that gives you the first address. And if you make the last 7 bits equal to 1s, you're going to get 0 followed by 7 ones, which is nothing but 127. So the last address will be 14.24.74.127. Okay, this is the first and last address of the first sub-block. If you look at the second sub-block, here it will be 64 addresses. So you start with, now where did you stop earlier? Earlier, the last address of the first sub-block was 14.24.74.127. Henceforth, I will not be calling out the value of the first 2 bytes because anyway it is going to remain the same. Let's focus on the last 2 bytes alone. Okay. Now, the last address of this first block is 74.127. So what will be the first address of the next block? The first address of the next block will be 74.128/26 is what really matters. Okay. Then what is the last address? It will be, you are allocating 64 addresses, isn't it? So the last address will be 191. Similarly, the third subblock. Third subblock, you are asked to allocate 10 addresses. Since we cannot allocate 10 addresses, we are going to make it as 16, and therefore the subnet mask will be 28. And what will be the first address of this block? It will be, earlier we stopped at 191. Now we start with 192, 74.192/28 up to 74.207/28. Okay. Now, what is the total number of addresses we have allocated or we have provided? If you add all the addresses in the previous subblocks, it results to 208, which means, how do you get this? You have allocated 128 plus 64 plus 16. That gives us 208 addresses. But how many do we have in the block that was given to us? The entire block had got 256 addresses, out of which right now we have allocated 208 addresses, and therefore we still have 48 addresses with us. Okay, this is what is classless addressing. Look at this, another example. An ISP is granted a block of addresses starting with this 190.100.0.0/16. It needs to distribute these addresses to 3 groups of customers as follows. There are 3 groups of customers. Observe here. The first group has got 64 customers, and each of these 64 customers needs 256 addresses. So you have to go on defining each group. So for this group, each customer requires 256 addresses. Therefore, 8, which means log of 256 to base 2, which is 8 bits are needed to define each host. So what will be the prefix length? It will be 32 minus 8, which is 24. So the slash n value over here will be 24. Okay, now that is for the first customer. So what will be the address range for the first customer? It will be 190.100.0.0/24 up to 255 addresses, isn't it? So it will be 190.100.0.255/24. What about the second customer? It will start with 190.100.1.0 up to 1.255. Similarly, like that it goes on. The 64th customer will have 63.0 to 63.255. So it gives a total of 64 into 256, which will be 16,384. Now similarly, you look at the second group. The second group has got 128 customers, and each of these 128 customers requires 128 addresses. So again, how will you find out what will be the prefix length or the slash n value? It will be 128, which what is 128 log 128 to base 2. The value is 7. So the prefix length will be 32 minus 7, which will be 25. The slash n value will be /25. Okay. So what will be the first address of this customer? It will be, now earlier in our earlier allocation, we have stopped at 190.100.63.255. So our next allocation will start from 190.100.64.0, isn't it? So 64.0/25, and it will go up to 64.127, because we require, each customer requires 128 addresses. Okay, so similarly that's how it goes on. So 128 into 128 gives us another 16,384. Now similarly the third group, each customer needs 64 addresses. So here it will be log of 64 to base 2, which will be 6. Therefore 32 minus 6 will be equal to 26. So the slash n value will be /26. First address will be this, and the last address that the last customer will get will be this. Okay, so this is how you go on doing it. All right. There are some more problems, practice problems that are given to you in this. So please go through, please practice these problems without fail. They're very important and they carry marks also, even with respect to your exams, they carry enough weightage. Okay. Now, what is network address translation? I'll take just in about 3 or 4 minutes before we wind up. Network address translation is wherein the distribution of these IP addresses has a lot of issues, right? Now, as the number of systems are increasing, the IP addresses required will go on increasing. But what happens is, what is done instead is, there is something known as a network address translation, wherein only a single unique IP address will be sufficient to represent the entire group of networks. This network address translation is something similar to what we have seen in our previous slide somewhere. Look at this. The network itself has an IP address of 17.12.14.0/26. This is what will be visible to the outside world, whereas we know that each host has got a different IP address instead. This is called as network address translation. Now, what happens is, these are the sites that are using the private addresses. Look at this. The first system has got the addresses 172.18.3.1, 18.3.2, 18.3.20, like that it goes on. And this is a router. The router's IP address is something different. It is 200.24.5.8. Now what happens over here is, any packet that is sent from any of these systems will reach this router, and the IP address, so the IP address from now on of each of these packets will be the address of the router, and that will be carried over throughout the network. And after, if at all there is any packet, that any incoming packet, then what happens is, it still has the destination as, look at this, it has got 200.24.5.8. So it comes over to this particular router, and from here there is a translation again. So it has to find out who exactly was the source. That would be done based on its routing table. Okay, the information in its routing table, and it further sends it. This is known as network address translation. Okay. Now, IPv4 header. IPv4 header is another important aspect in IPv4. It is 32 bits in length, right? We saw IPv4 addressing. Now, this is the IPv4 header. Any packet that arrives from the network layer will have this header before it. The header consists of these fields. Okay, this is the entire frame, Ethernet frame. The Ethernet frame has got the Ethernet header first, followed by IP header, followed by TCP header, then the actual data, and followed by the Ethernet trailer. Now, what does this IP header consist of? It has got the version, header, type of service, total length, identification flags, fragment offset, etc. Each of this, what I will do is, since you have your test from in another 5 minutes, I don't want to really explain anything right now. The remaining portion that I have with respect to IPv4, I will manage to record this and send it as a part of this meeting. Okay, I will just continue the class further. You need not stay online. Please focus on your exam, that is the test that you have right now. I will continue with the class, and I will finish the class once I finish the explanation of this. Okay, which will be available to you in the same meeting recording. Is that fine with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You may all leave the meeting, nothing to worry. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the IPv4 header consists of these many fields. These are known as fields. The first field,
Ma'am, you're muted.
line. All right. This is the IPv4 header. The fields of the IPv4 header. What you see here is the different lines that you see. You are supposed to understand it this way. The first 32 bits are to be decoded as these fields. The following 32 bits are to be decoded as the fields in the next line. Again, following the next 32 bits would be the fields in the next line, and that's how it goes on. Okay, so it's a huge header. So the first field here is, also you have to remember how many bits is each field. Now here the version is 4 bits. Okay, type of service is 8 bits. Fine. And total length, that is the total length of the header in bytes, will be 16 bits in length. Similarly, identification flags, fragment offset, time to live, protocol, etc. Now, so just observe here, this is 4 bits followed by this version, followed by header length. Again, header length is 5 bits, but the value will be given in terms of bytes. Okay, there are 5 bits meant to define the total number of that is the total header length, that is the length of the header, but it will be in terms of bytes. Okay. Okay. Now, yeah, look at this. So it is version followed by header length, which will be the length of the header alone. That is from this point to this point. How many bits is it? That gives, I mean, how many bytes is it? That is header length. Followed by service, which will be 8 bits. Total length in 16 bits. Total length is the complete length of the IP packet. Then identification, flags, fragmentation offset, time to live, protocol, header checksum, source IP address, destination IP address, both being 32 bits each. Now, what is version? Version is to keep track of the version. Here it is IPv4. Since it's 4v4, its binary equivalent will be 0100. Fine, 100 is 4. Now header length. Header length in terms of 32-bit words. That means its minimum value will be 5 and its maximum value is 15, which means 5. So it is into 4. That gives me 20 bytes. It is word, 32-bit. It is a word. Okay, and the maximum value is 15 into 4. That gives me 60 bytes. So that means the header may be a minimum of 20 bytes and a maximum of 60 bytes. Next, the IPv4 header. These are the different services. Okay, these are the different services. Normal, whether you are trying to minimize the cost or maximize reliability and all that. This will be given within these bits. The service type will be mentioned within these bits.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb you. It's past 2:45. The assignment is out.
Yeah, I know.
So should we stay in the lecture or can we
No,
leave?
I told you
Okay.
5 minutes ago itself. You
Okay.
need not remain in the meeting.
Okay.
You are all allowed to please move out of the meeting. You may leave the meeting. Please give the assignment. All of you may please leave this meeting and write your assignment. I am continuing with the class so that you can watch this later at your leisure. The total length, the field that indicates the total length will be the total length of the packet including the header. So it would be starting from 15 bytes plus something to 60 bytes plus something. It's a 16-bit field, so the maximum length will be 65,535 bytes. The next field is identification. It is to allow the destination host to determine which datagram a newly arrived fragment belongs to. All the fragments of a datagram contain the same identification value. Now, what is fragment? Whenever a packet arrives into the network layer, the network layer might keep it as it is, or it may further break it down. If it breaks it down further, it is known as a fragment. Okay. Now, so if it breaks it down further, it is known as a fragment. All right. Now, the flag bits, there are 3 flag bits, out of which the first one is not used. Second one is called as don't fragment. It is to indicate to the next immediate hop, or it may be any element, networking element, to tell the next networking element that you are not supposed to fragment this further. Don't fragment. And M stands for more fragments, which suggests that there are some more fragments of the same packet that are yet to arrive. Okay, so now fragments, 13-bit, there is a fragment offset, 13-bit field. which tells where exactly where in the current datagram this particular fragment belongs to. So it's something like you have a big sheet of paper and you are going to break it down, or you're going to tear it down, and now you're trying to put them back. Okay, something like a you're trying to put them back in the same place. So you should know where exactly this particular fragment belongs to within this complete datagram. That value is given by the fragmentation offset. Okay, so fragments must be multiples of 8 bytes except the last fragment. So if this is your entire data, which will be byte, and it's starting from byte 0000 up to, say, for example, byte 3999. So that is 4000 bytes totally. This is further being divided. How do you divide? It must be given as 8 bytes. So you divide it as this entire thing is taken as 0000 up to 1399. Then what is its offset value? You take the first fragmentation address and divide by 8. Its value is 0. So the fragmentation offset for all the bytes that arrive in this particular thing, it will be equal to 0. Next, similarly, byte number 1400 to 2799. Now, how do you find the fragmentation offset of this particular stream? You take 1400 divide by 8. Its value would be some 175. So the fragmentation offset for this entire set of bytes will be equal to 175. And that's how it goes on. Okay. This is another example of fragmentation. These are the different bytes. This is the original datagram, and its bytes are 0000 up to 3999. That is totally 4000 bytes of data. Now, initially the fragmentation offset is given as 000. That means, and this is further detailing. So the first fragment between 0000 and 1399, they will all have the fragmentation offset as 000 itself. Next, that is 1400 to 2799, they will have fragmentation offset as 175. Similarly, the next. Observe over here the flag bits. These are the flag bits, 3 flag bits. The first one is not used. Second flag bit is D, that is don't fragment. The third flag bit is 1, which is more fragment. Now, since the original datagram had been broken down into fragments further, the last flag bit is set to 1, that is more fragment is set to 1, which means what? There are more fragments that are yet to arrive which belong to this particular datagram, right? Similarly, here also it is 1. But observe in the last fragment, that is the third fragment, the value of it becomes 0, which means there are no more fragments belonging to this particular datagram that are yet to arrive. Okay, this is what is fragmentation. Next field there is time to live. Time to live is the maximum time for which this particular packet can survive within the network. After that, it is not supposed to be forwarded by any element. So it is a field, it is used to limit the packet lifetime. Maximum lifetime value can be 255 seconds. In practice, it is nothing but the number of hops that it can go also. The next one is header checksum. It verifies the error in the header at each hop. Source and destination address, which gives you the source address and the destination address. Okay. Now there is another field here called known as protocol field. It tells the network layer to which transport process the datagram has to be given after assembly. So that is after all the datagrams of all the fragments of the particular datagram have arrived into the network layer, the network layer should know which protocol, which transport layer protocol it should give this particular packet to. That is given by the protocol field. So the values that are given are 1, 2, 16, 17 and 89. If the value is 1, it means the transport protocol is ICMP or IGMP, TCP, UDP or OSPF. Now, how do you find a header? Look at this example. Checksum of the header. Checksum of the header is calculated for all the 3 lines 32 bits each. That is 4 bytes each, isn't it? So what is this? It is 4. The next value is 5. The next field value is 0. The field after that is, so you consider 16 bits at once. So 16 bits here is 4, 5 and 0. So 4, 5 and 0, 0. The next value is 28. 28 in hexadecimal is 001C. The next value is 1. Again in hexadecimal it is 0001. The next value of the flag is 0. Its value in hexadecimal is 0000. Okay, the 2 zeros. The next value here is 4, which is 8 bits in length. And this is 17. So you have 4 and 17, 04 and 11 and 00, right? And then you consider the source address and the destination addresses. So which would be 10, 12, that is 0A and 0C. 14 is 0E, 5 is 05. Next destination address 12 is 0C and 7 12.6 6 is 06, 7 is 07, 9 is 09. So this is how you consider all the values, find out the sum of these values and complement that to get the checksum. Okay, this checksum value that has been obtained will be appended in this particular field to give the checksum. Okay. And these are some of the options, the last few options. One is security, strict source routing, loose source routing, record route and timestamp. These are some of the options that are provided. Okay, this is the entire IPv4 datagram. So it first has the header, which is what we discussed so far, and then it will have the actual data unit. The maximum length of the data to be encapsulated in a frame will be equal to 65,535 if it is using a protocol known as hyperchannel. If it is using token ring, then the maximum data that can be within one frame will be equal to 17,914 bytes. Similarly, token ring, if it is FDDI, if it is Ethernet, and etc. This is one of the problems that you can expect from the header part. The IPv4 packet has arrived with the first 8 bits as this, but the receiver discards the packet. Why should it discard? Remember, the first 8 bits is nothing but the first 4 bits is for version and the next 4 bits is the header length, whose value should be a minimum of 5. That is 101. That should be the minimum value of the last 4 bits. But here the last 4 bits that are given here is 0010, which is 2 into 4, which is equal to 8. So it is not valid because it should be, the header should be the number of bytes in the header should be minimum 20. That is, it should be 5. 5 into 4 should give us 20. Since it is not so, the receiver discards the packet because there has been a corruption. The next example, an IPv4 packet has arrived with the first few hexadecimal digits as shown. It is hexadecimal. How many hops can this packet travel before being dropped? What gives you the number of hops? It is the time to live, right? Now what you should do here is, from this you have to deduce which value is the time to live value. Okay, time to live is the first field in the third line, right? It is a first field in the third line. So 4 plus 4, 8. After 8 bytes, you get the 9th byte. 9th byte is the time to live. Remember, okay? So the 9th byte here is what that you have to find out. Here it's in hexadecimal, so two digits will give you 1 byte. Correct? So 450000. This gives me 1, 2, 3 bytes. 28 is the 4th byte. 00 is the 5th byte. 01 is the 6th byte. 00 is the 7th. 00 is the 8th. So now the 9th byte is 01. Okay, 01. So this means that this is the time to live. Its value is 01. It means that the packet can travel only one hop from now. It can go to only one element next from now, and followed by the last two. The next byte that is given is 02. 02 is the protocol field, and the byte here given here is 02, which means that the upper layer protocol is IGMP. If it is 01, it is ICMP. If it is 02, it is IGMP. Okay, that's all with IPv4. The next one is IPv6. IPv6 is much larger than IPv4, as in it is 128 bits long. IPv4 is 32 bits long, whereas IPv6 is 128 bits long. Okay. The 128 bits, how are they written? They are written as 16 bytes. Okay, or 32 hexadecimal digits, hex digits. So observe in this is not a dotted format, but instead it is hexadecimal with a colon in between, colon to separate each hex. Okay, so the first one is FDEC :0074 dash 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 dash. That's how it goes on. This is the original data or original IPv6 address. This may further be abbreviated as FDEC :74:000. This is what you have to focus on. 000. Right? Now here, instead of writing 4 zeros each time, it is written as single zeros. 0000. Now wherever there are consecutive zeros in the address, it may further be abbreviated with a gap like this. This is what it means. Okay, now expand the address to its original. What can you do? 0 should be written as 0000. 15 should be written as 0015. Followed by, there is a colon, gap and a colon, which means that there have been some missing zeros. So it will be 3, isn't it? 3 components. So 0000, 0000, 0000. Then the next is 1. 1 should be expanded as 0001. 12 may be expanded as 0012. Again 12 is expanded as, sorry, it is 1213. It is right. Yes, that would be the original address. Okay. This is the header of the IPv6. Again, there is version, which will be 06 because it is 6. Then flow label, payload length, next header, hop limit, source address, destination address. This next header will lead to the next one, that would lead to another one, the other one, and that's how it goes on. This is the format of the IPv6 header. Okay, now what you see here is called priority. The 4 bits over here, that is the second field, is priority. What are the priorities that IPv6 offers? If it is 0, it means that there is no specific traffic. If it is 1, then there is some background data. If it is 2, then unattended data traffic. That's how it goes on. Okay, it can be between 0 and 15. Next, flow label. Flow label is used by a host to label the packets for which it is requesting some special handling by routers within a particular network. And it is uniquely identified by a combination of the source address and the 24-bit flow label. The next field is payload length. Payload is nothing but the actual data. So it would be the total length of all the extension headers plus the transport level data unit that it had received. The next header identifies the type of the header that would be immediately following this particular IPv6 base header. Hop limit, again nothing but the number of hops that it can take maximum. It tells the remaining number of allowable hops for this packet. Source address, which is 128 bits long, and destination address, which is another 128 bits long. This is the entire datagram header and the payload. The base header, which is 40 bytes, and the payload can be up to 65,535 bytes. And the payload would further consist of the extension headers, which are optional, and the data that arrived from the upper layer. Okay, next these are the extension headers that may be there. Hop by hop options header. It defines the special options that require hop by hop processing. Then that means at every hop the data will have to be processed in some manner. Routing header. It provides extended routing similar to IPv4 source routing. That means if it already knows which path it has to consider, which path it has to go by, then it would be given in this particular header. Fragment header. This would be necessary for fragmentation and reassembly information. Instead of the fragmentation offset that was there in IPv4, fragmentation is given as a separate extension header in IPv6. Authentication header. It provides packet integrity and authentication, encapsulating security payload header for privacy of the data, and destination information that will have to be taken care of at the destination node. Now, so this is how IPv6 looks like. IPv6, this is a base header on top, followed by the hop by hop header, routing header, fragment header, destination option header, TCP header, and the actual application data. This is what the IPv6 header looks like. There are three addresses in IPv6: unicast, anycast, and multicast. Unicast is 1-to-1. So an identifier for a single interface. A packet sent to a unicast address is delivered to the interface identified by that particular address alone. So it is just 1-to-1. Anycast is an identifier for a set of interfaces. So it belongs to a set of nodes. Okay, that is, let us say there are a group of interfaces that have been identified. It will be sent only to them. And multicast is an identifier for a set of interfaces, belongs to the node. A packet sent to a multicast address is delivered to all the interfaces identified by that particular address. What are the unicast routing algorithms? Routing algorithms, Dijkstra's algorithm, Bellman-Ford algorithm, these are ideal cases. All routers are, wherein they consider that all routers are identical, network is flat, and it is not, it may not be true in practice. Hierarchical routing, which is used in internet, which is a network of networks, and each network admin may want to control routing in its own routing network. The addresses scale problems and provides administrative autonomy. This is known as an autonomous network. A group of networks and routers under authority of a single administrator is known as, that particular group is known as an autonomous system. Different autonomous systems are connected using routers. So thereby you have a network. Now routing protocols that are used here are, there are two types, intra-domain and inter-domain. Under intra-domain you have got distance vector routing and link state routing. Remember, they were algorithms that you studied, the ones that you studied earlier, they are algorithms. The protocols that implement these algorithms are these: RIP and OSPF, and path vector, which is BGP. Now with this we shall stop with today's class.